Call a meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Belsley.
Here.
Dobb.
Here.
Hare.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Kaufman. Newhouse.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are no public hearings tonight, no presentations or special reports. Would anyone in the audience like to make a comment? The consent agenda tonight includes minutes, bills, and the release of the executive committee minutes for the last 6 months. It's our policy to regularly review these minutes and make sure there is no need to keep them confidential any longer. Trustee Newhouse has gone through the last 6 months of minutes, and so we've included those in the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything on the consent agenda? Any of the trustees? There being none that want to do that, could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move.
Second.
Seconded by Newhouse. Call it.
Belsley.
Yes.
Dobb.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
I have a pleasant task tonight. I would like to ask for a motion from the Board of Trustees to accept the appointment of Julie Smick as Administrator, Treasurer, and Controller of the village.
So moved. Second.
Second by Newhouse. Julie was selected from a field of 28 candidates. She was interviewed by Trustee Newhouse, Trustee Herman, and myself, and later discussed with all the trustees. Julie's a CPA with 19 years' experience in public accounting, corporate accounting, government accounting. She was with the City of Canton, and she was a senior municipal auditor with Clifton and Gunderson. Most recently, she was controller for Cullinan Properties. She has a bachelor's in accounting, and as I said, she's a certified public accountant, and her husband live here in Morton. Do I have any questions? Would either of you like to make any comments?
The only comment I can make is that I think we're very pleased. I'm certainly very pleased that out of that field we found someone that I think I hope we all think is an exact fit. And just for the record, made reference to the interviews, but for those who might be concerned about the Open Meetings Act, at no time did the three of us interview at the same time.
The process appears to have worked very well. I'm very pleased to have someone with her qualifications, and the fact that she's a resident of Morton is a plus for us all, I think, and I'm excited to begin working with her.
Yeah, it should be noted that we made a statewide search and didn't particularly look for somebody from Morton, but it was very fortuitous that it turned out that Julie and her husband live here in town. I guess we can call the question if there are no other comments. Randy?
Probably just a big thank you is appropriate for the staff, the village staff that really stepped up and
Yes.
Really carried us through this period of transition. And I'm sure having Julie come on board can't happen soon enough for them. But in the meantime, they did a great job and didn't let anything slip through the cracks. And we really want to let them know we appreciate their efforts.
Oh, yeah, we sure will. They were a really good team. Call the question.
Dobb.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Is that it?
Pardon?
Okay. Julie, you're in the audience. Would you like to say a few words?
First off, I'd just like to thank the board and President Rainson for this appointment. I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to the opportunity. I hope we can work for many years to come, together and to better do things for the people that live in Morton. And I also want to thank President Rainson. He's been including me already in things so that I think come Monday morning I'm not going to be walking in trying to learn everything at once. So I've really appreciated that too. And the city and the staff that I've met with are all very nice, and I think it's going to be a great job for me, and I hope I can do a great job for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julie. Village clerk.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
The village administrator doesn't have anything tonight. Deputy chief.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Corporate counsel.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Fire and emergency.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Director of public works.
I have one item tonight, Your Honor. In front of you is resolution number 18-14. This is a resolution approving the Morton Downtown Plaza design proposal by Farnsworth Group.
Need a motion to approve?
Second.
I'll second.
I think I'm done. There are lots of interested parties in this project. I want to remind everybody that it's the board's intention that Craig Loudermilk, and maybe Craig, you can't say this for yourself, but it's the board's intention that you should be in complete charge of this project. There are going to be a lot of people with ideas and suggestions and so forth, but we want to make sure that Farnsworth communicates everything through you. If anyone has any ideas, they should share them with Craig, and he'll take care of them. The one other thing I'd like to say is that we're going to need a name for this new plaza. I had put out a request, and I've gotten 2 suggestions, and I think Trustee Newhouse said he'd had a few suggestions. But please, if anybody out there has got suggestions for the name of the plaza, please communicate them to me, and I'll make sure that all the trustees get involved and we come up with an appropriate name. Any discussion on this? Any questions? Randy?
Yes, more of a clerical matter, just with the agreement in place. And looking it over, and I've had a chance to briefly discuss this with Craig and also Bruce Brown as well, but I would like to make an amendment to the motion to accept this contingent upon changing the language, just cleaning up a little bit. There's just a couple reference there to, in the agreement, to the Village of Morton, to the client, and to the owner. And I think the intent we all understand, but just, again, maybe to address your earlier point, is what I'd recommend is if we maybe started out with identifying the Village of Morton, and then maybe in parentheses, the owner or the client, and then have that be consistent throughout the agreement, just so there's, eliminate any misunderstanding of who the party is.
Are you okay with that, Tom?
As long as legal counsel agrees that that's a good idea, seems to me appropriate.
I have no reservations about that change. I think that's in good order.
Yeah, it does start out with owner and ends up calling his client, so it would be nice to get it all the same. And you can take care of that at the signing.
I'll work with Bruce on that.
Yeah, we don't have to rewrite anything. Anything else?
Well, sure. I think the objective is to deliver to the community what we showed them we were going to do, and I am very confident with our Director of Public Works having that responsibility.
Well, and, we've challenged him to bring this thing in on budget. If you don't give him authority to control it,
He will do it.
It's not a fair challenge.
And we intend to start, I think, tonight for the board and working with Mayor Rates, and we intend to break ground in July of this year. So there's a lot of work for Farnsworth here in the next several months.
As soon as you vote for this, I expect to see Bruce start to sketch in the back seat there.
It's probably already started. I know Bruce.
Any more comments or questions?
We need a,
I was just going to ask, I know last update on the funding, we were at the 1.8 mark. Do we have an update or?
Yeah, and I'll let Brad confirm this, but I believe at this point there's a $820,000 committed through the EDC and donations. Is that correct, Brad? That's correct. And as far as the village portion, we do have in the business district tax fund, we do have $1.18 million currently in that fund as of today.
Thank you. Call the question.
Hare,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Newhouse,
yes.
Belsley,
Yes.
Dobb.
Yes.
One other thought, Your Honor, on the plaza. With respect to the remaining funding, the Economic Development Council will be initiating shortly. We've had very broad acceptance across the community, large number of donations, kind of down to the point now where we'd be looking for a kind of broader response from my fellow residents, invite them to join me in writing a check to help finance the plaza. No amount is too small. It's $5, $10, $10,000, whatever you can do. We will be looking for all interested parties to pitch in.
You can still contact the Morton Foundation too and
Yes.
buy bricks that recognize someone's service in the military.
There's still a lot of great opportunity for sponsorship and things to get done.
Well, now that it's a go for sure, I expect that we'll
people-
get some additional
Yeah,
contributions.
it's tough for people to make the commitment without it necessarily being ready to go. And now that we're moving forward, I think we'll even see a bigger push.
Well, we raised the first $800,000 plus in a matter of months, so I don't have any doubt that the remainder will come in well in time for the completion of the project.
Planning and zoning.
One item tonight, Your Honor. Each of you had in your packet a list of zoning amendments or revisions that have come up in this past year, plats that you may have approved. They're on that list. The maps all reflect that, and upon your approval tonight, they will be then put on our website, and anybody can access them. And if any of you would like a paper copy or something, we can make that happen as well.
I don't think we need a vote on that, just confirmation that the trustees think that's a good idea. It's good enough, I think.
I would suggest be in order to vote on, to approve the updated zoning map.
Okay.
Since it's on the agenda, I think it'd be in order procedurally. It was recommended at the.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded by Newhouse. Any further discussion on this? Call it, please.
Herman,
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Dobb.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Village trustees, trustee Belsley,
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
trustee Dobb,
Nothing this evening.
trustee Hare,
Nothing tonight.
trustee Herman.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Trustee Coffin is not able to be with us tonight, but I think trustee Newhouse is able to step in for him.
I will act on his behalf, Your Honor, with respect to the extension of the waste collection contract now in place with Grimm Brothers. Trustees will recall, and most Morton residents will recall, that a couple of times in the previous meetings, we've discussed the potential extension, what we were going to do about the household hazardous waste event, basically what triggered this. And the continuing understanding that the state is probably not going to run those events as regularly as they have, or maybe at all, and that the private enterprise opportunities for disposal are also drying up. So it made sense to look at, as we planned the next household hazardous waste disposal day, as we promised citizens, we'd have two, that we look at what else we need to do with the contract to make that work effectively. So tonight, on behalf of Mr. Kaufman, I would like to propose, and this will be sort of a first reading, or will be a first reading, but a proposal to extend the current contract, which expires at the end of 2019, through 2024. And in doing so, we would have the second staged household hazardous waste event that was already planned, and then two more during the life of the contract, which should help address the requirement for folks to dispose of those kinds of things. And at the same time, we can do this with an agreement to freeze the contract at what would be the 2021 rate. So right now, people are paying, I think it's $15.40, and it goes up gradually to $17.37 if you have the full service and don't use the senior citizen service. And then rises slightly after that and would be locked in at the price of $18.50 for the remaining 4 years. Well, I would say by 2021, that's probably going to be a pretty good deal. The senior rate is commensurately lower, just as it is now, about $3 on the average. So if you were paying, say, right now seniors are paying $12.40, so that would go up. That would max out at $15.50. So I guess this is an opportunity for people who've got thoughts on the subject to comment, but otherwise, the plan is that we would formalize a contract extension, and at the next meeting, vote to extend the contract incorporating those 2 extra household hazardous waste collections. And then Mr. Kaufman and I think at this point that with the village, it's an awkward business for the village to be in. And we understand that a household hazardous waste disposal facility is potentially to be built in Hopedale. And the idea would be to sort of phase out at the end of this contract extension, Morton phase out of that business and have a local place where people could go and it could be regularly handled. Because it is, the big difficulty with it is the amount of regulation and handling it. We may make it faster than it was, but I don't think we're ever going to make it fast. It's never going to be painless. So better that it be handled eventually by some professional organization. But that's the plan right now. It would give us 2 extra events, freeze the price during the last 4 years of the contract, and I think that's a win-win for Mortonites and for the suppliers. So representatives are here tonight from Grimm and Period Disposal. Eric Shangraw is the marketing director, and Mr. Grimm, Mark Grimm, is responsible for the local operation. Did I miss anything? Is there anything that
We have tentatively locked in a date with Veolia, who's the contractor we use to handle this material, and that would be Saturday, June 13th.
The battle plan right now is that the next event will firm that up and announce it, but
So-
we're shooting for June 13th of this year.
And
So the
Veolia folks said that they would double their workforce to try to help alleviate the wait times, but again, it's so hard to predict how many people are going to come and when.
Well, I think the success of the event, by meaning how many people were there, was pretty evident that there's pretty significant demand. And the driving force behind this, I guess, to be a little bit clearer, is if we put an extension on, we can guarantee that the citizens will have 2 more events besides the additional one that's already in our contract, where if we don't do the extension, we potentially could get left out because of some changes that are coming in the near future. Is that kind of what is that?
We planned on providing you a second event for a few more years. That they're so expensive.
Correct. Yes, correct.
We need to get some time to build some cash flow.
Gotcha, no.
So we kind of said, here's an opportunity, we'll pay for another one
Gotcha.
soon.
Okay.
And from on top of that in exchange for a longer.
And I think it's pretty clear from our part, when you look into it, whether it's the Illinois EPA or the national EPA and some of the other, who knows what other organization will come in the future, that it's going to be more difficult to actually do these things, because the disposal of it, the collection's easy, it's the disposal is the issue. So
Well, we don't know what happens. Basically,
Yeah.
you're right. We don't know
Yeah.
how it happens to the cost. So by
Yeah.
doing this, we lock in
right.
the household hazardous waste disposal at what we think is an acceptable rate. The option would be to take them out. Could you take some dollars out? Yeah, you probably could, but then you would have no means of household hazardous waste disposal. So for the small dollar difference that makes, we think it's better incorporated in the contract, and that way we don't get in a situation where a few years down the road is, we need to do this, and we're at whatever the current market rate is.
And if I could stress, I mean, we got a 1-page sheet here, but this was a lot of work on both
Yes.
parties. We never thought we were going to do the 5-year. It was just we knew we had to get some household hazardous waste events in there, but, going back and forth on years and everything else, it just worked that this was the best option. But there was a lot of work, a lot of efforts by Trustee Newhouse and Trustee Kaufman, but a lot of work back and forth to be able to come up with this.
Now, typically, we wouldn't have looked at this again for an extension for several more years, but under the circumstances, this just kind of made sense. And again, I think, looking at the numbers, looking at what's going on in the waste industry worldwide, I think this is a good outcome.
I think it's important to the community. I mean, it's one thing to arrange for people to get rid of their waste and so forth, but if you don't come up with some way to deal with hazardous waste, it ends up in your waste treatment plant, it ends up in fields. I mean, people have to do something with it, and so getting this wrapped up is really going to be great for the community.
So plan would be next meeting, we would have a
2 weeks from
formalized
today, we'll
contract,
vote
and
for
the
it.
trustees would vote. In the meantime, if people have got something to say about it, contact Mr. Loudermilk or me or Mr. Kaufman or whomever you wish in the village. Let us know your thoughts, but this is what we think is the best arrangement for the community.
Any other comments?
The date that Eric did mention, we haven't selected a site yet, but there's several meetings to coordinate that here in the next several weeks. But we've pretty much agreed that that's the best date for all parties.
We know a lot of folks would like to have seen it sooner, but again, this is something that is not very easy to arrange. It has to be an authorized handler. There are only a limited number of organizations that do that. So it's a bit more complex than just calling somebody up and say, hey, bring a couple of dumpsters over. So I realize everyone understands that, but it's getting the availability of the experts and the site and the date is taking a little more effort than we would have liked, but it's important to do it right.
Okay. You had some other things, Trustee Newhouse?
I have, under my own agenda, Your Honor, that takes care of Mr. Kaufman. I'm going to change the order here a little bit. The first one is the announcement of proposed Veterans Road improvements, and I'd like to get the plat out of the way first. That is Mathis subdivision. It's basically an action that affects the mile-and-a-half zone of our responsibility. It's been approved by the county, and it essentially plats off a plot of land in which a family will place elderly family members housing, and really doesn't have any other impact on the village of Morton. It's south of Broadway and is basically residential in nature. So I would move to approve.
Second. Bill? Any discussion? Call it, please.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Dobb.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Okay, next item. Let's go back to the Veterans Road improvements. At the last meeting, I think, or the meeting prior, we approved rezoning for the new Apostolic Christian Church adjacent to the home on Veterans Road, just off the entrance to Thorn Ridge. Approved the plat for that and a special use permit for the church. And the church congregation will be spending the money to line up their driveway with the Thorn Ridge entrance, so we don't have offset exits and entrances to Veterans Road. Mr. Loudermilk, based on what we perceived as the potential traffic changes, authorized a traffic study. Mr. Kaufman and I met with Mr. Loudermilk and reviewed the study, and the study confirms that as the church is built, traffic will increase. There will be a requirement there for left turn northbound and right turn southbound. And the traffic volume is such on the study, it's sort of just over the limit where you'd say you don't really wouldn't need to do a turn lane, but it's enough over the limit. You look at it and it's just, this is the right thing to do. So we need a turn lane there. The proposal would be that, and this is consistent with the policy that we follow for most entities when something like this is taking place, whether it's a commercial entity or whatever, that we would install the turn lane. The church will incur some level of the engineering cost up, including the potential to pay all of it. And then we would split the cost of the turn lane for that section with the congregation. And the current thinking, or at least my proposal, is that we probably put a not-to-exceed number on there, probably be $325,000, because the current cost for the road looks like somewhere between 6 and 7, I believe. Now, at this point, we are just talking about a proposal. But at the next board meeting, assuming that we don't find anything that would make us change our minds or to drive some of the details elsewhere, we would have an ordinance for approval by the trustees. But this is, in my mind, a fair and appropriate solution. The residential growth in that area, both from Thorn Ridge and north, will probably mean that we'd have to address this someday anyway, and the church traffic and the requirement for both left and right turns there probably suggests that the only smart thing to do is to install it, and again, the fair thing to do is to split the cost, because some of this is driven by events that don't have anything to do with the church. It's just community growth, and it'd be consistent with how we've handled other roads where we've had to go and say, community's going to have to bear this cost. So in this case, splitting it, again, in my mind, makes sense. So questions, entertain questions, and then.
Yeah, I have just one, Steve. Are we talking the center turn lane, or are you talking dedicated turn lanes?
Let Mr. Loudermilk respond to that.
It would be, the main driving force, the main warrant would be the left turn lane going northbound on Veterans into the church on the center. Which then you'd have the opposing one would be a left into Thorn Ridge Drive also.
So it'd be like a center turn.
It'd be a center turn lane. So
Yeah.
most likely we would have to widen on both sides of the road.
And
Obviously,
What's the chances of carrying that past the ball field entrance for the ball fields too?
well, I think that's a concern that's come up. I think long-term for sure, maybe even in the short term, eventually connecting up to the 3-lane on Veterans at Cortland.
Okay.
Would probably, just due to the increase at the Park District fields there, would probably be appropriate.
Yeah, since those fields get high school use too. So.
Yes.
Yeah, this is partly a streets issue and would typically be under Mr. Kaufman, but it's also tied in with the zoning and development work out there, so it wound up under my agenda item. But it's what I understand to be a center turn lane. And we're going to, sooner or later, probably a little later rather than a little sooner, but we're going to have Veterans Roads patchwork. Here's the county, here's the village, here's the county. Someday that's going to have to get all resolved, and we're going to have to put some bucks in that. So this is one step toward that. So next meeting, you should have an ordinance. Anybody's got questions or concerns, please get back to Trustee Kaufman or me, or to Mr. Loudermilk, and we'll try to make sure that when we come back in 2 weeks that we've got precise figures. Well, if we don't have precise figures, we can't have an ordinance. So we will plan to have precise figures. So, is that correct? Is that a reasonable
Yes.
amount of time to do that? Okay, I thought so.
It might be worth mentioning that this is a church we're dealing with, but if it was any developer, we would come up with the same plan.
Any
In case
entity,
anybody's wondering, are you doing this, splitting the cost because it's a church or whatever? That's not the case at all. We would do the same thing with any developer.
correct. It's any entity, whether it's a residential development or a commercial development, whatever, if somebody's going to do it, and you have the same kind of an analogous situation, typically we split 50-50. Now, there are cases where it's, 30-70 or, some other arrangement. There are also cases where the village has put in roads or improvements to roads simply because of the requirement of the village, and we spent the money to do it. But typically, when it's driven by an entity doing something, we split the cost in the same manner.
Any other comments or questions? Do you have another item?
One other item, Your Honor, is the residential mixed-use zoning classification. I asked the Plan Commission to give that one final thorough review, which they did. They unanimously recommended approval, so it's back to us. I noticed that it's not in the packet. So rather than have a vote tonight, I think we'll make sure everybody gets the package, and then I will ask everyone to take a look at it. There are a couple of questions remaining. Mr. Spangler and I have had some discussion, some minor detail items. You get those resolved, then I would look again for probably next meeting for us to vote on that. But we have, this is one of those things where you're never quite sure about the unintended consequences. You always look to see, what can jump out at us and make us say someday later on, gosh, why did we do that? We haven't found any of those things. So that's been the focus. And I think we are ready to proceed with that, and I think it'll be a real enhancement for the village. But just a couple of things that Mr. Spangler and I need to look at. And in the meantime, if the trustees have questions or concerns, get back to Mr. Spangler or to me or anybody on the Plan Commission. Justin Farrell kind of led the effort, but Jeff Keach and Craig Smock were early on the two creators based on their expertise. So next meeting.
Mr. Newhouse.
That's all I have.
Mr.
Sir.
Newhouse, I would just like to mention that nothing was given to me.
Oh, no doubt. I'm
that.
sure that's the case. Yeah,
Okay.
I had thought that it would automatically be forwarded, but apparently it wasn't. Not a problem.
Okay.
So we will make sure that it's in the packet the next time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor. Plenty for me tonight.
Anyone else like to add anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Before you vote, Julie Smick has kindly said that she would stay around for a little bit. I would hope that the trustees would take this opportunity to visit with her.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.